Welcome, basketball fans, to what might just be the most seismic, landscape-altering, and genuinely shocking development of the 2026 NBA offseason. If you thought this summer was going to be a quiet period of minor tweaks and peripheral roster adjustments, you were dead wrong. The news has just hit the wire as a kind of blockbuster revelation that forces every single general manager in the league to completely tear up their blueprints, put their phones on Do Not Disturb, and brace for an absolute earthquake. We are talking about a scenario that could instantly shift the balance of power in both the Eastern and Western conferences. We are talking about a two-time NBA Finals Most Valuable Player, a two-time Defensive Player of the Year, and undeniably one of the most enigmatic, dominant, and fascinating superstars in the history of the sport. We are talking about Kawhi Leonard. Right now, as we speak, the dialogue is not just speculative. It is not just the usual off-season chatter fabricated by anonymous executives trying to stir the pot. The talk is incredibly serious, and it involves two franchises that are aggressively and perhaps desperately trying to vault themselves into guaranteed championship contention. According to breaking reports from the most trusted insiders in the game, the Dallas Mavericks and the Toronto Raptors have officially placed substantial, high-stakes trade offers on the table for the Los Angeles Clippers franchise cornerstone, Kawhi Leonard. To truly understand the magnitude of this moment, we have to rewind and contextualize exactly where we are in the timeline of the NBA, and specifically, the timeline of Kawhi Leonard and the Los Angeles Clippers. When Kawhi signed his massive contract extension to stay with the Clippers, it was viewed as the ultimate long-term commitment. It was supposed to be the cementing of a legacy in his home state of California. The narrative was supposed to be about perseverance, about overcoming the relentless, brutal string of injuries that have plagued Kawhi's tenure in Los Angeles, and finally delivering that elusive first championship banner to the Clippers organization inside their brand-new Intuit Dome. But the NBA is a league where the ground can shift beneath your feet in an instant, and for the Clippers, the foundation has completely cracked. The reason Kawhi Leonard is suddenly available, the reason this 35-year-old superstar is being actively discussed in trade packages, is not simply about basketball fit. It is not just because the Clippers want to get younger or pivot into a rebuild. No, the catalyst of this unprecedented fire sale is one of the most bizarre and unprecedented off-court situations we have seen in recent league history. Looming over the Los Angeles Clippers organization right now is a massive, dark cloud in the form of an ongoing investigation by the NBA into the franchise's dealings with a corporate partner. There are severe salary cap circumvention, findings rumored to be on the horizon. The league office is bearing down on the Clippers, and the potential penalties are catastrophic. Because of this impending regulatory nightmare, the Clippers find themselves in a position where their most expensive asset has suddenly become a massive liability that they might need to offload simply to survive the financial and structural fallout. Their hand is being forced, and the moment the blood was in the water, the Sharks began to circle. But these are not just any typical opportunistic teams looking to grab a disgruntled star. The two teams leading the charge, the Dallas Mavericks and the Toronto Raptors, both have incredibly deep historical and philosophical ties to what Kawhi Leonard represents. Let us start by looking up north. The Toronto Raptors. Just saying the name Kawhi Leonard in the city of Toronto invokes a level of reverence and mythology that is usually reserved for ancient deities. We all know the story. In the summer of 2018, Masai Ujiri, the mastermind executive of the Raptors, took what was considered at the time to be the biggest gamble in modern NBA history. He traded the beloved franchise icon, DeMar DeRozan, for Kawhi Leonard, who was coming off a mysterious, injury-plagued season. It was a one-year rental, a high-stakes roll of the dice. And what happened? Kawhi delivered the most spectacular, cold-blooded playoff run in recent memory. He hit the shot against Philadelphia that bounced 4 times on the rim. He dismantled the Milwaukee Bucks. He dethroned the Golden State Warriors dynasty. He brought the Larry O'Brien Trophy to the Great White North, captured his second Finals MVP, and then just weeks later, he left in free agency to go home to L.A. For years, Raptors fans have lived with the bittersweet reality that their greatest hero was merely a mercenary. But now, the door has violently swung back open. Insiders have explicitly reported that not only are the Raptors and Clippers seriously engaged in trade talks, but incredibly, Toronto is currently the only team that Kawhi Leonard is reportedly willing to sign a long-term contract extension with. Let me repeat that, because it is the linchpin of this entire saga. Kawhi Leonard, looking at the final act of his Hall of Fame career, is reportedly looking at the landscape of the league and pointing back to Toronto as the one place he is willing to commit his future to. The familiarity, the trust in the medical staff, the connection to Masai Ujiri, and the undeniable fact that he is treated as absolute royalty in that city, it all seems to be pulling him back across the border. But if you think Masai Ujiri is going to run uncontested to the finish line, you are vastly underestimating the ambition of the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks, spearheaded by their dynamic front office and the transcendent brilliance of Luka Doncic, have entered the chat with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Dallas has been incredibly aggressive in trying to build a championship roster around Luka, and they recognize that windows in the Western Conference close as quickly as they open. The Mavericks are proposing a scenario that is frankly terrifying for the rest of the league. Imagine a trio of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, and Kawhi Leonard. It is a trio that features three of the most unguardable isolation scorers the game has ever seen. The Mavericks are willing to push their chips into the middle of the table because they know that acquiring Kawhi, even with all the associated medical risks, is the kind of home run swing that wins titles. Let us delve deeper into the sheer psychology of what is happening in the Clippers front office right now. Imagine being the Clippers' ownership. You have spent billions of dollars constructing a technological marvel of an arena to pull the franchise out of the shadow of the Los Angeles Lakers. You brought in Kawhi Leonard to be the pillar of this new era. Instead, you are facing a potential catastrophe orchestrated by a corporate partnership gone horribly wrong. The humiliation, the frustration, and the sheer desperation driving the Clippers' decision-making process cannot be overstated. They are operating from a position of vulnerability, and executives like Masai Ujiri in Toronto and Nico Harrison in Dallas are incredibly predatory when they smell blood in the water. They know the Clippers need to make a move, and they are structuring their offers accordingly, trying to extract a generational talent without completely gunning their own foundations. Now, let us get absolutely granular and dive deep into the anatomy of these proposed trade packages, starting with a team that seems to have the emotional and contractual edge, the Toronto Raptors. The dialogue between the Raptors and the Clippers has been active, serious, and highly detailed. The Raptors are constructing a mammoth package designed to satisfy the Clippers' need to stay competitive, while also injecting youth into their roster. The rumored package heading from Toronto to Los Angeles is centered around Brandon Ingram, R.J. Barrett, Grady Dick, and a significant haul of future draft capital. Let us break that down piece by piece. In this scenario, Brandon Ingram is the centerpiece of this deal from a salary matching and talent acquisition perspective for the Clippers. He provides Los Angeles with an immediate, proven scorer, a lengthy wing who can create his own shot, and someone who is significantly younger than Kawhi Leonard. For the Clippers, acquiring an all-star in his prime softens the blow of losing their franchise player. Then you add R.J. Barrett, a rugged, downhill scorer who brings a physical edge, alongside Grady Dick, a young, elite perimeter marksman who offers the exact kind of floor spacing that any modern NBA offense desperately craves. Why would the Raptors be willing to part with this much talent? The answer lies in the reporting that Kawhi Leonard is only willing to sign a long-term extension with Toronto. If a team trades for Kawhi Leonard right now, they are inheriting an aging player with a notoriously degenerative knee condition. For 28 other teams in the league, trading premium assets for Kawhi is corporate suicide because he could simply walk away next summer. But for Toronto, the calculus is entirely different. If they have a back-channel assurance that Kawhi will ink an extension the moment he lands, the risk profile drops dramatically. Furthermore, Kawhi would not have to carry the regular season burden. The young core can handle the heavy lifting from October to April. Kawhi can be preserved, load-managed, and weaponized specifically for the postseason. However, we must aggressively pivot to the other heavyweight contender, the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks represent the path of maximum chaos and maximum offensive firepower. The proposed package from Dallas is vastly different from Toronto's offering. The Mavs are reportedly dangling a package built around P.J. Washington, Klay Thompson, and a collection of draft picks. On the surface, this might seem underwhelming compared to Toronto's haul. P.J. Washington is a versatile, gritty, defensive-minded forward who is exactly the kind of high-level role player that championship teams need. Then you have Klay Thompson. Klay is in the twilight of his legendary career, but still provides an aura of championship experience and elite floor spacing. However, from the Clippers' perspective, swapping Kawhi Leonard for P.J. Washington, an aging Klay Thompson, and future picks does not exactly keep them in the upper echelon of the Western Conference right now. So why is Dallas even in the conversation? It comes down to Kawhi's potential willingness to play there, and the terrifying ceiling of a Mavericks team featuring Kawhi. Kawhi is a Southern California native who might be highly intrigued by the prospect of staying in the West, playing in a no-state income tax environment like Texas, and joining forces with Luka Doncic. If Dallas pulls this off, the basketball world might actually break. Think about the defensive attention that Luka Doncic commands. Now add Kyrie Irving. If you place Kawhi Leonard on the wing, catching the ball against a rotating, scrambled defense, it is mathematically impossible to stop them. Kawhi would feast on single coverage. But the Dallas scenario is fraught with a level of risk that borders on insanity. Both Kyrie Irving and Kawhi Leonard have extensive, deeply concerning injury histories. The Mavericks will be committing an astronomical amount of their salary cap to a trio that might rarely see the floor together during the grueling 82-game regular season. Furthermore, the Mavericks would be gutting their defensive depth. It is a high-wire act without a safety net. If they are healthy in May and June, they are unbeatable. If Kawhi's knee flares up, the entire experiment could collapse spectacularly. This brings us to the ultimate power broker in this entire scenario, Kawhi Leonard himself. Despite not having a formal no-trade clause, Kawhi holds absolute veto power over any transaction simply by utilizing the threat of his impending free agency. He famously marches entirely to the beat of his own drum. If he tells the Clippers he will not play for Dallas, the Mavericks' offer instantly evaporates. Conversely, if he tells ownership he wants to go to Toronto, the Clippers' leverage is severely diminished. They will be forced to negotiate exclusively with Masai Ujiri, a man who famously operates with ice in his veins. The Clippers are staring down the barrel of a league-mandated penalty. Rival executives know this. Therefore, Toronto and Dallas are not just bidding against each other. They are aggressively playing chicken with the Clippers' front office. Let us also consider the incredible pressure resting squarely on the shoulders of the general managers involved. For Masai Ujiri in Toronto, executing this trade would be his magnum opus. Bringing Kawhi back to lead a new generation would elevate him to a status beyond reproach. However, if he mortgages the future and Kawhi's body ultimately fails him, Ujiri will have to answer for setting the franchise back half a decade. For Nico Harrison in Dallas, the pressure is arguably even greater. He has a generational talent in Luka Doncic who expects to compete for a championship every single season. Nico Harrison has to weigh the terrifying medical charts of Kawhi against a reality that you simply do not get opportunities to acquire top-tier superstars very often. And then there is the Clippers' brain trust. They are operating in a nightmare scenario. Their objective is no longer championship contention in the immediate future. It is damage control and asset preservation. They must extract every possible ounce of value without looking completely desperate. As we stand here bracing for the impending chaos of free agency, the Kawhi Leonard situation has completely hijacked the narrative of the entire NBA offseason. What was supposed to be a relatively predictable summer has morphed into a high-stakes thriller, and the resolution of this standoff will undeniably alter the trajectory of the league for years to come. Let's take a moment to visualize the sheer impact of the two potential outcomes. If Kawhi Leonard packs his bags and heads north to reunite with the Toronto Raptors, the Eastern Conference instantly becomes an absolute bloodbath. You are injecting a proven champion into a roster with a fiercely competitive culture. The narrative of Kawhi returning to the city where he achieved basketball immortality to finish his career would be the most compelling story in sports. It would instantly legitimize the Raptors as an elite contender, putting the rest of the East on high alert. The monster from 2019 would be back, older, but still possessing that terrifying ability to dissect opponents in a 7-game series. On the flip side, if the Dallas Mavericks manage to pull off the unthinkable and bring Kawhi to Texas, the Western Conference might simply implode under the weight of that offensive firepower. A starting lineup featuring Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, and Kawhi Leonard sounds like a video game creation. It would be a grand experiment in star power, an attempt to out-talent every defensive scheme in existence. The Mavericks would become the ultimate boom or bust television spectacle. Every night would be a high-wire act balancing on precarious health of their newly formed Big Three. If they make it to the playoffs intact, they are the most feared team on the planet. If they crumble, it is remembered as a spectacular failure. And let us not forget the profound tragedy of the Los Angeles Clippers situation. To see an era that began with such immense promise end in a messy, forced fire sale is a sobering reminder of the fragile nature of championship windows. A combination of catastrophic injuries and an unbelievable front office crisis has brought them to their knees. It is a massive cautionary tale for every franchise in the league. This is the drama that makes the NBA the greatest soap opera on television. The stakes are unimaginably high. The characters are larger than life, and the consequences of the decisions being made right now will echo through the annals of basketball history. We are watching the tectonic plates of the league shift in real time. Now, I turn it over to you, the viewers. I want to hear your absolute unfiltered thoughts in the comments section below. Where do you think Kawhi Leonard ends up? Does he follow his history back to Toronto to finish what he started? Or does he embrace the chaos and join Luka and Kyrie in Dallas for a chance to build a terrifying super team? And more importantly, which package do you think is actually better for a Clippers team that is desperate to save face? Is the all-star talent Brandon Ingram from Toronto the right move, or should they gamble on the veteran presence and picks coming from Dallas? This situation is incredibly fluid, and we will be monitoring every single whisper, every single rumor, and every breaking update. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you have those notifications turned on, because the moment a deal is finalized, we will be back here breaking down every single angle. The NBA offseason has officially descended into madness, and I am incredibly excited to navigate it with all of you. Thank you so much for tuning into this deep dive. Stay passionate, stay engaged, and I will see you in the next one.